A second is a second. The clock ticks, and every tick is identical to the last. The first year of your life lasted 365 days. Your 70th year will last exactly 365 days. Same number of sunrises, same number of breaths, same amount of time. That is what the watch on your wrist tells you. That is what the calendar on the wall tells you. And that, I want you to notice, is exactly what the deepest physics we have ever discovered tells you. So we all agree, time is uniform. A year is a year. Settled. Finished. Locked. Now I am going to take that tidy little idea and break it apart with my bare hands. Because the last second of your life, that one, single, ordinary-looking second, may contain more lived experience than the entire first year you spent on this planet. I'm going to try to convince you of this with arithmetic. No tricks. No mysticism. Just careful thinking about something every single one of us has been wrong about, quietly, our whole lives. Let me first give the wrong idea its due. Because the wrong idea is not stupid. It is in fact supported by some of the most beautiful science we have. Take any well-isolated clock in this room. A pendulum, a quartz crystal, a beam of cesium atoms locked inside an atomic clock. Watch it for a year. 315,360,000 seconds, give or take. And every single one of those seconds will be indistinguishable from every other. The universe has no preferred tick. Physics does not care which second we are on. Even in the very strange world of Einstein's relativity, time within a single frame of reference is uniform. Yes, two people moving at different speeds will disagree about how much time passed between two events. Yes, gravity actually slows clocks down. Your head ages slightly faster than your feet, and that is a real measured effect, not a metaphor. But within your own frame, sitting where you are, time ticks 1 second per second. Always. No exceptions. So far, the conventional view is bulletproof. But here is the catch. There are two kinds of time, and the physics I just described is only one of them. There is clock time, the time of pendulums and cesium and Einstein. And then there is felt time, the time inside your head, the time you actually live in. And these two kinds of time do not behave the same way. They are, in many respects, foreign to each other. Let me ask you something. Picture, if you can, a summer when you were 7 years old. Don't pick a special summer. Just an ordinary one. June, July, August. Do you remember it as a vast expanse of time? Like a whole little life lived between school years? When I ask people this question, they usually say yes. The summers of childhood are huge, endless. You went swimming in the afternoon. You watched ants for half an hour, and that already seemed like a substantial event. You went to bed exhausted by the sheer enormity of having been a person all day. And then you woke up and did it again. And the summer went on, like an ocean. Now think about last summer, last June, July, August. What happened? You can probably name a couple of things. A vacation, maybe. A particular weekend. The rest is what? A smear? A soft blur? You sneeze, and the leaves start changing color, and you wonder where it all went. I am not the first person to notice this. Aristotle noticed it. St. Augustine noticed it. Your grandparents told you about it. Every culture, in every era, has had some version of the same complaint. The years go by faster as you get older. We tend to wave it away as nostalgia, or memory playing tricks, or a sort of sentimental confusion. But it is none of those things. It is one of the most regular, reliable, predictable features of human experience. And a quiet, careful French philosopher named Paul Janet wrote down the law that governs it in 1877. Stick with me on this. It will sound too simple to be useful, and then it will explode in your hands. Here is what Janet said. The subjective length of a period of time for a person of a given age is inversely proportional to the total time that person has already been alive. That is the whole law. 11 words. Let me unpack it. If you are 1 year old, then 1 year is your entire life. It is 100% of everything you have ever experienced. Every face you have seen, every sound you have heard, every taste, every feeling, every dream, all of it is contained inside that 1 year. The year is enormous because it is the universe. If you are 10 years old, then 1 year is 1/10 of your existence. Big, memorable, but not your whole world. You have 9 other years to lay it against, to compare it with, to put it in proportion. If you are 50, 1 year is 1/50th of your life. A thin slice, a slim wedge. And subjectively, Janet said, that is exactly how it feels. Small, slim, slippery, gone before you can pin it down. You can see where this is going. The older you get, the smaller each unit of time becomes, relative to the totality of your experience. Time speeds up because each new piece of it is a smaller and smaller fraction of the whole. Your clocks are not wrong. They are doing their job. You are simply using a different ruler. I love to take a beautiful sounding law like this and grind it into actual numbers, because beautiful laws are everywhere, and most of them fall apart when you do arithmetic with them. Let us see if this one holds. If subjective time really does scale as 1 over your current age, then the amount of subjective time you live through between age A and age B is the area under the curve 1 over t, from t equals A to t equals B. And that area, as a mathematician would tell you, equals the natural logarithm of B divided by A. Don't run from the math. We don't need any calculus. We just need a couple of values. The natural logarithm of 2 is about 0.69. So from age 1 to age 2, the subjective time you experience is about 0.69 units of something. The natural logarithm of 80 is about 4.4. So from age 1 to age 80, your total subjective adulthood is about 4.4 units, which means your second year of life, from age 1 to age 2, accounts for about 16% of your entire subjective adult lifetime. 16%. From a single year, out of 80, it gets worse. If you ask, by what age have I lived half my subjective life, the answer is not age 40. The answer is the square root of 80, which is about 9. By the time you are 9 years old, you have already lived, in subjective terms, half of everything you will ever experience. Sit with that. 9 years old. Half. Done. I can hear an objection already, because the math says the function blows up at age 0. It would say the first second of life contains infinite subjective time, which is obviously not right. So the formula breaks at the very edge. But that is a small mathematical inconvenience, and the lesson stays exactly where I want it. The early years are dense, outrageously dense. The later years pile up, but they weigh almost nothing. We need to ask why. Why should subjective time work this way? Because the mathematics is just description. It does not tell us what is happening inside the head. So let us go in and look. There are at least 4 reasons that the years feel faster as you get older. None of them, by itself, is the whole story. Together they are devastating. The first reason is novelty. When you are a child, everything is new. The taste of a strawberry, the smell of asphalt after rain, the feeling of being lifted up, the sound of your own name being called from another room. Every single experience is brand new, and the brain doesn't quite know what to do with most of it. It has to lay down memory, hard, in a thick rush. And memory, as we will see, is what makes time feel long. By the time you are 40, almost nothing is new. You have eaten thousands of strawberries. You have heard your name 1,000,000 times. You have walked in the rain. The brain knows what to expect, and so it doesn't bother to encode. The summer that felt like a year when you were 7 feels like a weekend when you are 40, because there is nothing for your memory machinery to grip onto. The second reason is biological. Your brain literally processes information more slowly as you age. Reaction times slow down. Visual processing slows down. The refresh rate of consciousness, if we can call it that, the rate at which your brain takes a snapshot of the world, appears to drop. A baby is probably running at a much higher refresh rate than you are. Their world is shimmering, swarming, alive in a way that adult perception is not. They are seeing more frames per second of reality. A second, for them, contains more. The third reason is emotional. The events of childhood happen to you when your brain's emotional system is fresh, hot, and unhabituated. The first time someone hurts your feelings, it's an earthquake. The first time you stand on a stage, your knees can hardly hold you. The first time you fall in love at 14, you think you might actually die. These emotional spikes burn memory into you with terrifying clarity. By the time you are 50, almost everything has happened before, in some form, and the emotional thermostat has been quietly turning down for years. The same events leave shallower marks. The fourth reason is structural. Adult life for most people is routine. Same job, same commute, same dinners, same friends. The brain has learned the pattern, predicts the pattern, runs on autopilot through the pattern. And when the brain is on autopilot, it does not bother to encode. Whole weeks blur into a kind of paste. Whole months get filed under more of the usual. And when you try to remember them, there is nothing there to remember. Put these four together. Novelty, biology, emotion, routine. You get a perfect storm against the felt length of adult life. Your years should be flying. By Janet's law, they will fly. We now have a theory of why. And so far, every effect points the same way. As you age, time accelerates. The first year of life is enormous. The 70th year is a footnote. So how on earth can the last second of your life last longer than the first year? This is where I have to turn around and tell you about the other side. Because Janet's law is not the only force at work. There is a second force, completely separate, that pushes in the opposite direction. And under the right conditions, this second force can be enormous. You have probably had the experience or heard about it, where time slows down in a moment of crisis. A car skids on the highway. You see in agonizing detail the bumper of the truck you are about to hit. Your hands move toward the wheel like they are pushing through honey. 3 seconds, maybe 4, and yet in those 3 seconds you live an hour of conscious experience. People in combat report it. Mountaineers in a fall. Survivors of car accidents. Surfers held down by a wave. The reports are remarkably consistent. Time, at the moment of danger, becomes thick. But is this real? Is the brain actually running faster, perceiving more information per second, or is this a trick of memory? A neuroscientist named David Eagleman wanted to know the answer to that question, and he designed an experiment so audacious it makes me laugh every time I think about it. He built a wristwatch, a special wristwatch. It flickered numbers on a tiny screen too fast for normal vision to read. Under ordinary circumstances, you would see only a blur. But if time really did slow down for you in a moment of fear, you should be able to read the numbers. That was the test. Then he had to find a way to terrify his subjects. He took them to an amusement park ride called the SCAD Diving Tower. SCAD stands for Suspended Catch Air Device. You stand on a platform about 150 feet up. You are harnessed in. They release you. You free fall backwards for 3 seconds, and then you land in a giant net at the bottom. You cannot see the net. You cannot see anything. You are just falling backwards, blind, toward what your body absolutely believes is the end. His subjects wore the wristwatch. They fell. They were asked to read the numbers on the way down. And afterwards they were asked to estimate how long the fall had lasted. Their estimates were consistently long. The 3-second fall felt like 4, by about 36%. So the fall did feel longer. But, and this is the punchline, they could not read the wristwatch. Their actual perception during the fall was not faster than normal. Their brains were not operating in slow motion. They were not extracting more information per second. What was happening, Eagleman concluded, was that their brains were laying down memory at a much higher density during the fall. The amygdala, the part of the brain that handles emotional fear, was producing memory traces at a furious rate. And later, when they retrieved that memory, the density of it felt like a long duration, even though, in the moment, time had not actually slowed. This is an important distinction. There are two kinds of time slowing. One is live perception. The other is retrospective. Eagleman's data suggests that the famous time slowed down during my crash effect is mostly the second kind. It feels long when you look back, because so much was packed into it. But I want to be careful here. Eagleman's experiment does not rule out the first kind entirely. The fall lasted 3 seconds. That may not be enough fear, or enough time, or enough extremity to shift the actual rate of perception. We do not know what happens in longer, more extreme states. We do not know what happens at the absolute boundary of human experience. There are some hints that, in the right conditions, deep meditation, certain psychedelics, perhaps the moments before death, something genuinely different may happen to subjective time. But we do not yet have good experiments. The frontier is open. Now let me put the two forces together. On one side, Janet's law, which says the older you are, the shorter each unit of time feels. On the other side, the dense encoding effect, which says that under sufficient stress, novelty, or significance, the brain can lay down memory so densely that a moment feels enormous in retrospect. Throughout most of your life, Janet's law dominates. The years go faster and faster. Your 40s feel shorter than your 30s. Your 50s feel shorter than your 40s. By your 70s, the calendar pages are nearly invisible. That is what happens, most of the time, to most people, in most years. But there are exceptions. There are moments when the dense encoding effect spikes, and a single hour outweighs whole decades. The day your child is born, the day you fell off the ladder, the first kiss, the phone call with bad news. These moments break the Janet's law trend. They sit in your memory like boulders in a stream, and the rest of the years flow around them. And now we come back to where we started. What about the very last moment? Not the last decade. Not the last year. The last second. I want to be honest with you. We do not know. We have anecdotal reports from people who came near death and survived. They speak of life flashing before their eyes. They speak of reliving years in moments. They speak of vivid clarity, of seeing themselves from above, of moving through tunnels of light. Some of this is undoubtedly the brain in oxygen-starved chaos, producing unreliable images. Some of it may be the brain's last desperate effort to make sense of what is happening. But the patterns recur, across cultures, across decades, across millions of reports, and they are too consistent to dismiss casually. Here is the most provocative scrap of evidence we have. There are studies on rats, and I want to be cautious because rats are not humans.